In December of this last year, Kirk asked me if I would like to speak to this group as a part of their Sam Talk series. And I asked him, I said, what made him think other advisors would want to hear my story? I said, they're all successful in their own right, and quite honestly, I feel like I'm kind of at the bottom of the food chain with this group. Well, he replied that I had done something that 99% of this room has never done but wants to, and that I had done it multiple times. So here's my story. I got started late in this business. In 1998, I had 2 kids in high school, and I was 42 years old, and after a 20-year career as a bank executive with the Farm Credit System, I got the chance to pursue other business opportunities. So my kids didn't want to leave Wichita, so after about 5 years of trying to figure things out, I decided to become a financial advisor. I got securities licensed, and in August of 2003, I joined Securities America. My GDC was 0, and by now both kids are in college. So I did what many of you in this room did to grow your practices. I did workshops, I did mailings, anything and everything to reach potential clients and to grow my practice. What I learned, as you all know, is that this is a relationship business. But what got me up here on stage today is the fact that I took a little different view of client relationships. See, I look at other financial advisors as potential clients. My growth strategy from the beginning has always been twofold: one client at a time and one practice at a time. As a result, in the last 8 years, I've purchased 7 practices. I currently have 2 more practices under contract, and I'm in negotiations with 2 more practices. My GDC in 2014 was just north of $820,000. The 2 practices under contract will add another $1 million GDC, and the 2 practices I'm in negotiations with could add another $300,000 GDC. So how do you build relationships? I don't think I can tell anybody in this room anything new about how to build a client relationship, so I'm just going to tell you what I've been doing. I got involved in things where other financial advisors were. You know the saying, if you want to catch fish, you go where the fish are. I joined the Kansas Financial Planning Association. I was president of that organization in 2010. I'm a member of the Wichita Estate Planning Council. I used to cold call financial advisors just to get to know them. One of the contracts I'm currently in negotiations with today is from one of those cold calls. I still call financial advisors and just say, hey, I'm in the area, I'd like to stop by and say hi. See, I've been in every Securities America office within about a 100-mile radius of Wichita. When I'm in their office, we talk about them. How did they get started? How did they grow? How did they become successful? Shoot, we might even gossip about home office a little bit. No offense, Jim. If I felt like their practice might be a potential fit with my practice, I always ask this question: what would happen to your practice if something happened to you? This is the question that I use to open the door to potential future acquisition discussions with other clients or with other advisors. So I'm just going to ask it again real quick. What would happen to your practice if something happened to you? Depending upon their response, I might reply with something like, well, if you ever decide you want to sell or talk about a succession plan, give me a call. I might have an interest. At that point, I have planted the seed. From that point on, it's all about maintaining the relationship and being ready. At whatever point in the future that advisor would reciprocate an interest to pursue something further, then we'd begin a more serious and detailed discussion. Due diligence, if you will. Fact-finding, seller goals and objectives, deal structure and time frame. I'd share with them my pitch book, which is basically a compilation of our office procedures, systems, staff resumes, articles written about our office, home office audit results, client survey results. It's basically my company brochure for other advisors. 2 key points that have to be present in every discussion with another advisor. Number 1, any deal must be good for both parties. And number 2, both parties must have a vested interest in success after the closure. Now, not every negotiation that I've been involved in has resulted in an acquisition. Shoot, I've had a half a dozen deals that have fallen through for some reason or another. One advisor just liked to be taken out to lunch. Another advisor never really intended to sell his practice, even though he'd listed it on FP Transitions for sale. It took me about 6 months to figure that one out. Another advisor, we had signed a contract on a Friday. He called me the following Monday and said, I'm just not ready. I said, okay, which in hindsight was a good thing, because about 3 months later, the police were ready for him after they caught him driving around town shooting out the front window of other financial advisors' offices. I can't make this stuff up. But see, I don't look at any of these negotiations that didn't consummate as failures. They're really learning opportunities. And here's kind of what I've learned so far about growing through acquisition. First is you have to have capacity. Personal capacity is the knowledge, skills, and ability, the licensing, the credentials, all those attributes that make you successful in this room today. Business capacity is just that. It's the operational capacity of your practice. I was in the Next Level 4 class in 2009, how to build the $1 million practice. And I kept asking Kirk Hewlett and Roger Verboven, my coach, to just give me the policies and procedures. I didn't want to develop them on my own. In fact, I have a certificate of achievement from them, "Can't you just give it to me" award. In hindsight and in retrospect, and as much as it pains me to say this, Kirk, you were right. You have to build your own systems. And that's exactly what we've done. I call it corporate memory. It's been crucial to our office operations, particularly when we acquire another practice. See, it's easy to add just one client at a time. We all do that every day in here. But what about when you add 1 or 2 or 300 clients overnight? A good example of that occurred on May 31st of 2011. We closed the deal on 3 practices the same day. We added over 450 new clients overnight. You have to be ready to handle that kind of workload. As our practice has grown, our capacity to handle things has also grown. Staffing is so critical, particularly to the acquisition process. See, I didn't do these acquisitions on my own. I have a tremendous staff that is as much a part of this story as I am. If capacity is what gets your foot in the door, trust is what closes the deal. As soon as I have earned the trust of the seller, it's over. Everything else just falls into place, even how to price the business. It's critical when we close the deal that the seller pass the trust that his clients have in them to me, the buyer. I think this is one of the things that have made our acquisition successful, because if I can't retain clients post-closing, it's not going to work out well financially for either the buyer or the seller. During my first meeting with an acquired client, we have a conversation that goes something like this. From what I can tell, the seller was a good advisor and they did a good job for you. Now, unless you tell me otherwise, my job is not to come in here and change everything. We will continue to meet on a regular basis. We will review your portfolios, and as things change or conditions warrant, we will make adjustments. And it's amazing what happens during that conversation. You can visually see the client relax. I've had many acquired clients tell me that the seller trusted me, so they trust me. Now it's up to me to earn and keep that trust. The most difficult issue in this process, and I've seen it in many of my acquisitions, is the emotional ownership of the seller. It's often difficult for the seller to let go or to even know when to let go. I mean, this is my business. I've built it from day one. These are my family and friends. Nobody can serve my clients as well as I can. See, I think one of the character traits that makes all of us in this room successful is ego, and that's a good thing, but it can also become our Achilles heel when thinking about or trying to sell our practices. I've had many acquired clients tell me that they knew the seller should have gotten out sooner, but they just did not feel comfortable in saying anything. The other thing that drives this process is that it's the seller's decision as to when to sell. As badly as I want to grow and acquire, it's not my decision. It's up to the seller. My job is to be ready. The seventh practice I acquired, we started the relationship in 2004. The deal closed in 2011. But the third practice I acquired, the seller walked into my office on Monday, and by Thursday of that week, the deal was done. In summary, I guess what I've learned about growing my practice through acquisition is, first, it takes capacity, both personal and business. Second, it takes trust, seller trust and client trust. And third, it's all about the seller. In December of this past year, my staff and the staff of soon-to-be acquired practice number 8, who happened to be in attendance in Wave 1 last couple days, we got together for a Christmas lunch, building relationships. Well, during that lunch, I asked the seller, I said, why did you choose us? I said, you could have chosen from any one of 50 or 100 other potential buyers. What made you choose us? And after giving it some thought for a few moments, he looked me in the eye and he said, Rene, you're not quite as ugly as the other buyers, but we do wish you had more hair. As you can tell, we have a good, warm relationship, and we really do. But then his licensed assistant of 15 years said, I'll tell you why. She said, first, we like your ethics. They trust me. And secondly, you let us continue to do business the way we want to. See, it's all about the seller. I'm so humbled to be up here and share my story with Securities America's most successful advisors. See, I think there is so much that I could learn from all of you. I've taken the liberty to put some of my business cards on the table back here under the camera. If you'd want to pick one up on the way out, maybe we could visit. See, I would love to hear your story. How did you get started? How did you grow your business? How did you become successful? We might even gossip about home office a little bit. And if the conversation goes well, I will ask, what would happen to your practice if something happened to you? Thank you.